Yeah, the first Michael Bay movies, man, they were a mess. There were some good action scenes, but that's it. The plot was all convoluted. The story didn't make any sense. What's up, YouTube? Welcome to Idiot's Corner. I'm Jason. Today I wanted to talk about this article. If you could see, it's about 3 weeks old, so I'm a little bit behind on this, but I haven't seen too many people talk about it. I don't know how many other people love the Transformers like I do, but I wanted to talk about it. The article is about Transformers Reboot. There's going to be a Transformers movie reboot. Will reportedly be set in the 1980s with Megatron as a villain. So right off the title, you can see it can't coordinate with the first set of movies because in the first set of movies, Megatron was frozen in ice. So this couldn't be him. Transformers are my pastime, man. That's what I grew up watching as a kid. I was about probably 10 years old when the show first came out. I was right in the prime era that G.I. Joe. Loved them. Loved Transformers. I started collecting the toys again in the 90s. I got me here. This is a new one that just came out. This isn't from the 90s. I sold a lot of them from the 90s because I live in Las Vegas and the heat, it's not kind to the plastic. So I had to get rid of them. They were just crumbling apart. But anyways, I just got this one right before Christmas. It's the Soundwave. It's a remake of it anyways. So anyways, I love the Transformers. Like I said, I was collecting them in the 90s. It was about 2004, maybe 2005 when I heard that they were making a movie, a Transformers movie. I was so excited to see them in live action. I watched Beast Wars in like about 96, I think it was, it came out. I started watching Beast Wars. And man, I was in my 20s when I started watching that. It came on Saturday morning. It was actually a pretty good cartoon. It was some of the first computerized anime type cartoons that I ever watched, and compared to the original Transformers, it actually had a coherent plot. So I used to come on Saturday mornings. I'd wake up. That was before Netflix and all that, and I'd watch me some Beast Wars. I thought it was kind of stupid that they made them over into animals, but the show actually became pretty good. I actually liked the toy line a little bit, and I started collecting those too. Anyways, fast forward 2007, the first movie came out. Before the first movie came out, like all the pictures they were showing, the changes they were making, I was like, man, this is going to suck. Then the first movie came out, and it had some good action scenes, really weird plot. It was mostly about the kid and his journey rather than Transformers. They were just kind of a background to his story. The story was mainly about, what was Wiki or whatever his name was. That I didn't like. Good action scenes, man. The one where Optimus Prime fights that guy on the bridge on the freeway, that's awesome. The first movie, being the first live action Transformers movie, it was good because you hadn't seen it before. But when you go back and watch it now, or even back then, like when you watch it the second and third time, it was the jokes were off. I don't really like Michael Bay's style of directing. He's constantly switching the camera. You start to feel seasick after a little while in his movies. I know he did Bad Boys back before Transformers, and not a bad movie. I like Bad Boys, the first one. Second one is where you really start to see he's coming into his own style and the whole slow motion for no reason and all that. He just goes overboard, I think. People like him, that's fine. I don't find his movies that good. Anyways, let's read into this article a little bit and see what we got coming up. It looks like the Transformers franchise is officially starting over. A few weeks back, WGTC, we got this covered, brought you the news that a soft reboot of the series is in the works. And now we've heard a little bit more in regards of what we can expect. According to our source, the same ones who said an Ace Ventura 3 is in early development. Let's pause right there and address that. Ace Ventura 3, the first two were funny. I think Jim Carrey's a little too old now, and he's a little off his rocker. I don't like any of the interviews he's been doing. He's pulled a Tom Cruise. He's really weird and into all kinds of weird stuff, and he's imagines himself as being super woke, which was confirmed by Morgan Creek Entertainment yesterday morning. The next film in the franchise will be set in the 1980s and act as a continuation of sorts of Bumblebee. Now that I don't understand, because Bumblebee was supposed to be a prequel to the first Transformers movie. I thought they made it seem that way, but who knows? With star Haley Steinfeld returning as Charlie. I don't know if Steinfeld, is that Jerry's daughter? Additionally, we were told Megatron will act as the main villain, and as we mentioned above, the movie will be considered a soft reboot of the series, with the Michael Bay films reportedly being ignored. Good. Please ignore those. Yeah, the first Michael Bay movies, man, they were a mess. There were some good action scenes, but that's it. The plot was all convoluted. The story didn't make any sense. The rusty dagger, the dagger that was made turned to sand, didn't make any sense. I know it was supposed to be the Matrix, but then you had the Knights of the Round Table in the third one. The third one was basically a movie about Mark Wahlberg and some robots. It had nothing to do with Transformers. They totally strayed away from the original plot of the Transformers, and now, one of them, they had the Megatron had a base on the moon that was hidden, or the Decepticons. Now, how did that exist? Why wasn't that in the first one? Like, they just didn't make any sense. They totally destroyed them. And I think a lot of times what happens with these movies, like Star Wars or the Transformers, or even some of these Marvel movies, is you get these producers that really don't care about the original work. They don't, and not that the Transformers original work was such a great plot story, but they did have an origin, and he totally disrespected that, totally disrespected the characters, just did his own thing for the sake of some action. And I think that they don't totally understand, and I understand some of the stuff has to come out of the story. It was old cartoon. You can't have everything in there. They could have stuck a little closer to the original storyline, the original origins of them, and then maybe tweaked it a little after that. I didn't like that Bumblebee never had a voice. Even in this last one, they still didn't give Bumblebee a voice. I don't know why they keep doing that with Bumblebee, why they don't just give him a voice. Hopefully in this one, they go back to normal and he gets a normal voice. So hopefully the new movies are a little bit more coherent. Anyway, let's read on. Unfortunately, we don't have any further details to go on at this time, but still, this will surely be welcome news for fans. After all, the Bay movies had gotten progressively worse with each installment, and the last entry, Transformers The Last Night, earned half of what the fourth outing, Transformers Age of Extinction, did. Now, I understood Age of Extinction. They were trying to bring the Autobots into it. Didn't like the Autobots they came up with. They weren't that good. The way they made the story wasn't that good. They just do stuff, I feel like. He just does stuff for action's sake and not for storyline, Now, I want some action in the movies, but not all action with no coherent story and just disrespecting the characters where they come from. It's unclear whether Bumblebee director Travis Knight will return to the franchise for another outing, but we can certainly hope he does, as he did a wonderful job balancing story with action, and the set pieces were all very memorable. Now, I feel like his story was a little bit too much story, and I don't mean too much story. I feel like the story was more like an E.T. or like a WALL-E, or not WALL-E, but the original WALL-E, if everybody remembers Short Circuit, Johnny Five. You remember that little robot guy and the girl? I think it was a girl. Maybe it wasn't a girl. Maybe it was a guy. I don't remember. Somebody had him, and that's what it was. This was reminding me a lot of that. It was more of that kind of a story, and then you got some good fighting in the end, but some decent fighting in the end, I should say. But I really would have rather seen this was okay if that's going to be your reboot start, and with Bumblebee, but I would have rather seen more action in it. More story was good, but I would have rather seen more action. That's why where did I leave off? More importantly, though, there were also coherent, and that was that's true. They were more coherent. I mean, it was only one movie, so while Bay certainly has the chops to direct action, it was sometimes difficult to discern the Autobots from the Decepticons, and given that the director hasn't seen an edit he didn't like, the quick cutting was often jarring. That's true. All his movies are like that. I don't know if you saw, he just did one on Netflix. It was a Netflix original. the previews were good because they take them little action clips and you're like, wow, this movie looks good. I like a lot of action in a movie as long as it's coherent and not so choppy like he does. A lot of it doesn't make sense. He got all kinds of slow-mo stuff going on. This last one that he did, Underground 6 or 6 Underground, I think, with the Deadpool guy, can't remember his name. I couldn't even watch it. Like, it was so much cutting and the plot didn't make sense. It was all just one action scene after another. The movie sucked. I was gonna do a review on it, but I took too long, but the movie sucked. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. It's free. If you ain't got nothing to do, go ahead and watch it. But it's not very coherent, and you're gonna be dizzy. So maybe take some of that motion sickness pill before you watch it. That's why Bumblebee was so great. It's sort of a remake of Bay's first Transformers, and while it may have lacked the director's style, it was a more mature and likable movie overall. I don't know if it was more mature. I felt like it was more of a kid's movie. Like I said, it was more of like a E.T. or Johnny Five with a teenage girl. I don't think it was a teenage girl. How is that more of an adult movie? It also cost half of what the last few films did and still performed well in the box office. Not to mention that the opening sequence of Bumblebee on Cybertron was incredible and felt like the closest we've come to recreating the original television show from the 80s. And that's true. The opening scene, if the whole movie would have been like the opening scene of Bumblebee, it was awesome. It was all the Transformers, how we remembered them. Optimus Prime looked like how he was supposed to. Soundwave looked like he was supposed to. It was what we wanted the first time. And they knew what we wanted. They know what the fans want, but they feel like they know better than the fans. They look at it as we would something we don't understand, like Dora the Explorer or something like that. If I was going to remake Dora the Explorer, I don't really care how it's going to turn out. I have no interest in Dora the Explorer. So I would just do what would be fun to me in a Dora the Explorer movie. I would, add some stuff in there that probably other people didn't care about, the original and that's what these producers do. They don't care about the original work. They think they know better. They're going to make a good action movie, and that's what they set out to do. They're just riding on the coattails of the Transformers is all they do, but they're not honoring excuse me, but they're not honoring the legacy. Not to mention the opening. Okay, where was I? As such, returning to that decade for a sequel feels not only right, but the sort of rejuvenation that the Transformers franchise sorely needs right now. I think it would be cool to be in the 80s if it was like Stranger Things 80s, but if they do it like how the X-Men went back in time, and it didn't seem like, it seemed like they were out of time, like they weren't in any specific time frame. The original the X-Men, where they went back and they try to redo the whole time frame and all that. So they were supposedly in the 80s and 90s, but it really wasn't too many references to that. You just couldn't tell what time it was in. It could have been in 2010. It could have been, there was no real reference to time, especially because they have all kinds of advanced stuff anyway. So they had their little advanced communicator, so might as well had cell phones. Anyways, so I hopefully that if they do a time thing, there's like the first one they did, Bumblebee did have some time frame references, but like another one, Captain Marvel was supposed to be in the 90s. There was a few references, but for the most part, you really couldn't tell what time it was supposed to be in. It really didn't, I would say, pay homage to the actual time that it was in. Maybe there was some cars and stuff like that, but for the most part, it could have taken place in any time. So anyways, let me know what you think. Are you looking forward to the Transformers reboot? Did you like the original ones? Do you wish they would have continued that plot line? Which there really wasn't a plot line, so I don't know how anybody can say yes to that. But anyways, please leave a comment, leave a like, and until next time, have a great week.